Hi, I'm Bill Bradley. Join me for a recent excerpt of American Voices. Building blocks, Lincoln Logs, Legos. Kids love to build things. But there's something new called littleBits that really allow kids to create and program something electronic. littleBits are kits of gender-neutral, snap-together bits that help kids innovate and create. Ayah Bdeir is the founder and CEO of the company. She's been named to Popular Mechanics 25 makers who are reinventing the American dream, and she's here with me now. Ayah, thanks for coming on American Voices.
Thank you for having me.
So when did you first become interested in science and engineering?
I think I was always interested in science engineering. I was a maker kid. I was a science kid. I loved to take things apart. I loved to tinker. I was always messing with the back of the VCR, breaking my sister's toys. So I think it was something that I had very young. And, you know, when I was deciding what to do for going to college, my parents and my teachers encouraged me to go into engineering because I was good at math and science.
Well, was that unusual? I mean, growing up in Beirut for girls to pursue STEM subjects?
I mean, growing up anywhere, to be honest, is, girls tend to not pursue STEM subjects. Lebanon is a little better than some other Arab countries, but the ratios are still very small. I was in a class of about 80 engineers. I think about 10% of us were women. And then by the time we graduated, there were drop-offs as well. So in the U.S. as well, this is a problem, and it's something that, since then I've been actively working on.
So what's the problem in your view, and how do we fix it?
The problem, I think, is multi-pronged. Girls don't see a lot of role models that are women engineers, and you really have to see yourself in the future to be able to be inspired by that path. Another one is oftentimes teachers and parents are discouraging girls from pursuing STEM subjects. So they're telling them they're too hard, they're not girly, they're not for them. And so these stereotypes end up really getting internalized by the girls, and they end up dropping off. And then the third piece is issues around self-confidence and fear of failure. Somehow we've sort of convinced our daughters that they cannot fail, that they have to be perfect. And so engineering requires a lot of iteration, a lot of failure. You have to be okay with it. And so oftentimes they end up self-selecting out.
So let's talk a little bit about littleBits. How does it work?
So fundamentally, littleBits is inspired by Lego, but instead of the bricks being pieces of plastic that snap together into structures, our bits are pieces of electronics that snap together with magnets to build complex electronics. You have candy-colored pieces that look like little bricks.
And they're made of what?
They're made of plastic, and then on top of it, electronics.
Mm-hmm.
So they're exposed circuit boards. They're what you would see if you opened up a phone or opened up a computer. It's circuit boards, except in our case, we make them open. They're exposed so you can see what's inside. You start by snapping two bits together. So you take a blue bit, which is power, and then you take a green bit, which is output, and you snap them together using the magnets, and you can't put them the wrong way. There's no way to make a mistake, so there's nothing dangerous about it. As soon as you snap a power to a light, for example, the light comes on within a second. And what we see is that as soon as that happens and the sound of the snap occurs and the light comes on, kids' faces light up. Their eyes open wide. They get so proud.
I can see why.
Yep.
I can see why.
Yep. So each brick has a function, like lights and sounds and switches and dimmers. Some are complex, like Bluetooth or wireless connectivity or motors or solar panels. And the goal is that every piece of technology or every piece of interaction in the world can become a brick, can become something that you can invent with. Everything snaps with magnets so that you can't put something the wrong way. And they're color-coded so that you always know that you start with blue and green, and then pink and orange are optional in between. And so it takes less than a second to get acquainted with the system, and off you go. You can start from no experience and suddenly make a wireless doorbell. You make a remote-controlled car. You can make a pet feeder that's programmable, wirelessly controlled to feed your pets, and it's real size.
We were just making music with by combining the little bits. We were just combining them to make music with it, using different kind of like miniature versions of different instruments, like the keyboard and other master thingy we were talking about. I don't know, I just like the idea of making my own little sounds from it. Because, I don't have much experience in that field, with music field, so it was kind of cool to get to experience that, like in a miniature form, those little bits. So I guess it was kind of fun for me to figure that out, because it's new to me, so it was kind of nice to like play around with the switches and turn it, kind of match along everyone else in like a little harmony. I really want to like get into that field just to see like how computers work and kind of use that, like incorporate it into other things like different types of art. Like perhaps now that I've been introduced to like making sounds, perhaps like adding that science to music or art, like visual art.
So how do you encourage girls to play with littleBits, and why is it important that you make the bits gender neutral?
So we think about how to get girls excited into STEM. Part of it is through the design, so making the bits themselves look gender neutral. Electronics typically are black or green. They look sort of very much akin. They always remind us of robotics, which is very much stereotyped as a boy activity. So we make them neon and candy colored. We make them fun. They're not feminine. They're not masculine. They're really gender neutral. We also pay a lot of attention into the communication. So what kinds of kids we're showcasing on the boxes, kinds of inventions we're showcasing as examples. So it's not about, vehicles or shooting games. It's about Ferris wheels and bubble blowers and sibling alarms.
Right.
The inventions themselves are gender neutral.
How great that is.
Yeah.
So as a woman in STEM, trying to build this company, was it difficult for you?
Building a company is hard. Building a company in hardware is doubly hard. Building a company in technology as a woman is triply hard. So yes, it is very hard. Every room I walk into is 80-90% men. Investors are 90% plus men. People that we work with frequently are the case. And so we work very hard to make sure our workforce is diverse. We have about 55% of our executive team is women. So it's something that I try to counter internally every day.
Mm-hmm. And what did you learn about entrepreneurship?
I learned that entrepreneurship is ultimately about persistence, because there are ups and downs. And when you're in a down, you need to persist through it. And you also need to have something that you genuinely, deeply believe in to carry you through that period that you're in. So for me, I can't imagine being an entrepreneur, starting a company in a field that I'm not deeply passionate about, that doesn't emotionally resonate with me, because when the going gets tough, it becomes really important to have this mission to hang your hat on. And for me, inspiring the next generation of kids and really empowering them to be creators is a huge driver.
Right. Can you tell us about some of the kids who play with littleBits and how this has helped them?
So it helps in multiple ways. First, we're able to attract kids that previously would think of themselves as not creative or not technologically inclined. So, the kids that are into robotics and science, they're sort of the choir, but the large majority, the 90%, are kids that think that they don't like engineering or robotics or coding. They're not interested. They're not creative. Those are the kids that we're able to attract really quickly, because it only takes a second and a light to come on for them to be enamored. We've seen kids invent robotic cats. We've seen them invent doorbells that are illuminated so that it can be safer at night. We've seen them invent creations around Earth Day so that they can, one of the kids made a boat made of trash that can go in the river so that he can show how trash can be reusable and recyclable. There's, also another program that I love called Mobile Makerspace, where there's a professor called Gokul that created a program called Maker Therapy, where he's giving littleBits to kids with chronic and terminal illnesses. Many of them are bedridden and are, confined to hospitals, and they get bored and depressed. And he gives them littleBits and challenges them to invent something relevant for their life. So they make prank machines to prank the nurses. They make doorbells where they can select who comes in and out of their room. They make mood meters so that they don't have to answer the question 100 times a day, how do you feel? And so they make a little contraption with a motor and a light, and they are able to point to their mood without having to say it. These are some of the inventions that really warm my heart and that really make me excited about what we're doing.
Is that what you'd like to have kids, especially girls, get out of the experience of playing with littleBits?
Yes, I would like them to understand the world around them, and I would like them to feel like they are agents of change and they can create the world around them. I would like them to feel like they can be the technologists, the creators, the makers, the programmers, the ones that are the entrepreneurs, the ones that are able to invent the world they want to live in. And a big part of that is technology literacy, understanding how technology works and being able to affect change through it. And our focus is schools. So we're in about 12,000 schools already. We want to be in every single school in the country, in the world, and we create curriculum for them. So we really want to be a staple in classrooms. They look to us for the breadth. We can do STEM, we can do math, we can do biology, you could learn grammar, you could learn engineering, coding, all with the same toolkit, and they love that.
That's a very powerful story. A very powerful story. You know,
Thank you very much.
What drives a company is the story that it tells, and makes me want to get my littleBits out, even though I'm not a kid.
I'd like to see what you invent. Never too late.
So you're an inventor, a creator. Are you focusing on everything littleBits now, or do you have some other amazing ideas you're cooking up?
Well, for the time being, littleBits is my full focus. We did last year start a nonprofit organization called Snap the Gap, which is focused particularly on girls. And Snap the Gap is essentially trying to tackle the problem of girls in STEM at a very critical age, which is 10 years old. 10 years old is when the gap between girls' and boys' interest in STEM starts showing up. And research has shown that that age and that gap is really critical and hard to recover from. So we work with companies. One of our big funders for this pilot is Disney, and is funding 15,000 girls in California to get littleBits kits, special curriculum, and a 1-year access to our DIY online community so that these girls are able to get inspired and get into STEM. And we're pairing them with mentors as well. So that's a nonprofit effort that we're doing, and the pilot is happening in California as we speak, and the goal is to grow it in other states every year until we get the full country.
This is an incredible idea addressing a very important problem. I mean, you know, you live in a world where the future is going to be determined by talent. And you're saying, you know, there's 50% of the population that has talent that we haven't harnessed. And that's what's so exciting about this.
Absolutely.
So one piece of advice you'd give to parents for boys and also for girls when parents see their kids getting frustrated by STEM, what should parents do? Other than, of course, get some littleBits.
Well, of course, that's my first recommendation. My advice is not to force it down their throat. My advice is to try to latch on to a hobby they already have. Maybe they like music, maybe they like art, maybe they like competitive sports, maybe they like online gaming. Whatever it is that they like, they have a hobby, try to inject STEM through it.
Well, Ayah, what a wonderful thing you've created for kids to really help them feel empowered and open their eyes to STEM. What a great thing you're doing. I appreciate you coming on American Voices.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to American Voices here on my YouTube channel. For more interviews celebrating the goodness and creativity of the American people, click the subscribe button below.